I know that many of you, perhaps all of you, have been drawn to the Hebrew Scriptures because the church typically does not do much with the Hebrew Scriptures except for, the story of David and Goliath and, maybe a few other stories from the Hebrew Scriptures. But Christianity focuses on the New Testament, and they don't realize that the two testaments are very connected and that the Hebrew Scriptures are just teeming with information. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you into Genesis 1:26, which will tell you that God has created mankind in his own image. Now, God's image, of course, is perfect and righteous and pure. And this can be explained through the Hebrew. So rather than simply reading the English or relying on an interpretation given by others, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to help you look at the original Hebrew for an understanding of this critical information. God created mankind in his image. Now, you don't have to be an expert in Hebrew. In fact, you don't have to know much Hebrew at all, because I'll explain it to you. But I think if you know a little bit of Hebrew, I think you're going to enjoy this teaching. First of all, you have to think like the ancient Israelites. I call it thinking Hebrew, but what you're doing is you're thinking like the people of ancient Israel. And the people of ancient Israel did not have Bibles like we do. They learned by memorizing. And this is someone in Africa who is teaching young children in Africa. They don't have books. So how do they teach them? They teach them orally like this. And the kids learn to repeat. I taught once in Mexico, and the classroom had a blackboard and chalk, but the kids had no books, they had no paper, they had no pencils. So the teacher could write something on the blackboard, but much of what he was doing was having them repeat, repeat, and repeat. And that's how they were actually memorizing by repetition. Now, you have to know that Hebrew is an ancient Near Eastern language. The people did not have books. They learned by memorizing. But it's also a different language from English. English really is quite specific, very logical, very specific. But in the ancient Near East, the language allowed you to hear. If the army was coming, you're not reading the book. Someone is speaking aloud to you. And you can actually hear the thundering of the horses and the dust from the army as it's pounding in. You can hear it. You can actually hear it. You can feel the touch. If God touches you, you feel it. You feel it. You see things. If it's talking about the fruit, the fruit, you see the fruit, and you have these emotional responses. So this is the ancient Near Eastern language. They learned by repetition, and it activated all of their senses. So with that background, are you ready now to begin this teaching about how God created man in his own image? So this is what we have. Now I'm reading from Genesis 1:27. God created man in his own image. Now here, Adam, this is on the Sistine Chapel, okay? Michelangelo is painting on the Sistine Chapel of God creating mankind, but it was in God's image. Well, God has no form. No one has seen God at any time. So what is the image of God? The image of God is spirit. It is righteous. It is perfect. It is all truth. That's the image of God. And this is the ancient Near Eastern language. We're so literal, we want it to be people, like you see there. We want it to be people, but it's not. The image of God is perfection because it's righteous and there's no sin. And then it's repeated. In the image of God, he created him. And when it's repeated like that, it's done for emphasis. The emphasis is that in the beginning, God created mankind as perfect without sin. And then it continues, male and female, he created them. Genesis 1:27. Now, I'm going to take you to the Hebrew. And even if you don't know much Hebrew, I'm going to read the Hebrew And I'm going to read it, and I want you to listen, all right? Vayivra Elohim et ha'adam be'tzalmo. Vayivra Elohim et ha'adam be'tzalmo. Be'tzalem, it's the same word. It's a repetition. Tzalmo, tzalem, and they're the same words, all right? Be'tzalem Elohim, bara, it's the same word, bara oto. And then it continues, Zahar u'nekava, that's the male and female. Bara otam. Okay? Now, I've highlighted bara, which is a three-letter verbal root meaning to create. I've highlighted tselem, which is in his image. Be tzalmo, up on the first line, be is a preposition in, and the vav at the end is his. In his image. Now, in the next line, in image, the image of God, in the image of God, bara, created, oto is the direct object, him. Zahar u'nekava, male and female, bara otam, the mem at the end is the plural, them, created them. Now, this Genesis 1:27 is in a passage that actually begins with Genesis 1:26. And we have, then God said, let us make man in our image, that's tselem, according to our likeness is another word. And it's a word that is a synonym with image. And I'm not going to read the remaining. I put it there for you. But then after this, we get, and God created man in his image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. Now, I want to go back to Genesis 1:26. And God said, Vayomer Elohim is all over Scripture. Vayomer Elohim. You got to know that one. The vav is just a connecting letter. We often translate it and, but you can translate it so, then. And Hebrew has the vav all over the place because it's just connecting phrases, connecting sentences, it's a connecting word, it's a connecting letter. Vayomer. It's also acting as a reversing vav. Yomer is, for those of you who know Hebrew, is the imperfect, which is incomplete, but the vav reverses it to make it complete. It's called a reversing vav. So instead of and God says, it reverses to and God said. And it's complete. English has tenses. Hebrew does not have tenses. It's either complete or it's incomplete. And in this case, it's complete. God spoke, and what he spoke was completely complete. Now we have the name for God, which is Elohim. Elohim is repeated 32 times in Genesis chapter 1. So we get Uvekol Elohei Mitzrayim. Now this is coming from, where I think maybe from one of the Psalms, I can't remember. So Mitzrayim is Egypt. Elohei is Elohim in a word pair. So instead of saying Elohim Mitzrayim, God of Egypt, it's Elohei Mitzrayim. The hey is the plural sound. So it's, now Elohim is our God, is the God of Israel. This is referring to the gods, plural, of Egypt. These are the pagan gods of Egypt. So Elohim is used for our God. It's in the plural, but I think it's there for the majesty of our God. But it's also used for pagan gods. And that's what we have here. We have Uvekol. Kol is all. Vekol Elohei Mitzrayim. Of all the gods of Egypt. Aseh, all right, now let's stop right there. Asa is a verb, which means to make or do. We've got the Aleph marker, which is I, making it imperfect. There's no reversing vav. So we have here, it's just incomplete. So it can be I make or I will make. And then we have Shvatim, Ani, Adonai. Now, Shafat is judgment. Shvatim are judgments. All right? So God says that he's going to make or do these judgments, I am the Lord. And it's done in the imperfect, so it's not complete. So these judgments that he makes on pagan gods is going, it's not complete. He's going to keep doing it. He's going to have these judgments on these pagan gods, and he ends, Ani Adonai. Okay? So let's see, are you ready for the rest of, we're going to go back now to Genesis 1:26 where we were. And God said, Vayomer Elohim. All right, now I'll do it in English first. Let us make man in our image. All right, we have na'aseh, and you see the verb asa again, to make or to do. The nun is the imperfect first person plural. It's we. It's we. Okay, so and God said, we make or we will make Adam. Now here Adam does not mean Adam, it means mankind. Be tzal menu. We have our tzalem, that's that image, that's that same word, image. Be is the preposition in, and the new sound is the we, in our image, in our image. Say, so Vayomer Elohim, na'aseh Adam. We will make mankind, be tzal menu, in our image. So this be is a preposition meaning in. The vav at the end is a possessive pronoun, our, in our image. Now, we've got to know more about what exactly, God makes man in his image. You know, you've got to ask yourself questions. You've got to be curious. You have to do that. And anybody can do a word study. So to do a word study, we are curious about the word image. We go to BibleHub.com. We type in Genesis 1:26, because that's the verse. And we have to go to the interlinear, which is going to do both the Hebrew and the English translation. Now, BibleHub.com does the King James translation, but who cares? We can figure it out. Hebrew reads from the right, and said, God, let us make man in our image. And then we have the Hebrew, Vayomer Elohim na'aseh Adam be tzal menu. All right, let's take a look at the image. That's what we're interested in. And what we have the Hebrew in the middle, be tzal menu. We have the King James translation, in our image. Below that, we see that the preposition comes first. The bet is a preposition. And it's followed by a noun, which is masculine. And first, let's see, and the pronoun at the end is the first plural, the first person plural, we, the we, in our image. So it's breaking down that word into the three parts: the preposition, the noun, the pronoun at the end. In, image, our. All right, and then above that it gives you the translator, how to pronounce it. Be, sal, it should be tzal, menu. Now, the very top is Strong's number, and that's what you want to do. I don't want you to go to Strong's definition because it's an English definition of an English word, but you have to go to Strong's, you have to click on that because it will take you to the concordance page. The concordance page lists all the verses where Tselem appears, and Tselem is the word we want to take a look at. It also gives you Brown Driver Briggs Concordance, which is used by academics. It's a very quality concordance. And if you're working in Hebrew, you need to look at it. So on the left is the Brown Driver Briggs, and it's telling you that Tselem means an image. It's something cut out. So it's cut out to create the image of something. Now down here, it's used images of tumors and mice of gold. So it's not just an image of God, it can be an image of other things, all right? It can be an image of other things. Now over here on the right, we get another meaning as image, likeness of a resemblance, and that's Genesis 1:26 and Genesis 1:27. So that's our word there. And there's another figurative meaning here if you're interested. But Brown Driver Briggs is filled with all kinds of information that you really need to get to know Brown Driver Briggs. Now, I like to explain about being created in God's image. And I give the example of a newborn baby. A newborn baby has no sin. The newborn baby is perfect. The newborn baby is in God's image because God's image is not physical. God's image is perfect, holy, righteous, without sin, and that's a brand new baby. So that's, and in Christianity we call it a new birth. So, but in Scripture, Genesis 1:27, God created mankind in His image. So He created them as if they were like new babies. They're born without sin. Now, what happens is that if you read the creation account, mankind is born perfect, but then sin enters. Sin enters after man is born perfect. And God is going to use sin to shape us like a potter shapes us back into His image. So we start in His image, and at the end of time we will return into His image, and in the middle we're being formed into His image. There's a wonderful quote here by Dietrich Bonhoeffer. God does not give us everything we want, but He does fulfill His promises, leading us along the best and straightest paths to Himself. So this is in the middle. In the beginning, we're born perfect. We're going to be perfect in the end. But right now, He's leading us in the direction of God, which is in the direction of righteousness without sin. So that's where we are. Wonderful, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, wonderful Christian minister in Germany during the time of the Nazis, and he stood for God the whole time. He was arrested toward the end of the Nazi period, and he died shortly before the war ended. But what an incredible man. I mean, I'm getting chills just thinking of him. So now we go back to Genesis 1:26, and you should recognize it now. Okay, Vayomer Elohim Na'aseh Adam, so we will make mankind, Be'tzalmenu, in our image, Kid Mutenu. Well, we've got two words. One is translated image and the other is translated likeness. So with the first one, Tselem is image, and that's that personal pronoun, in our image. Then we have Kid Mutenu. So the first letter is a preposition. It's like or as our likeness. And that's the translation. We have image, we have likeness. I'm taking you to another verse that has those two words. And it's really important. If you do a word study, you would find it, but I've done the word study and I'm going to show you. So we have in Genesis 5:3, Adam became the father of a son in his own likeness. Now, a son is in italics, it's not in the original. So you would read, Adam became the father in his own likeness. So it's implied a son in his own likeness according to his image, and named him Set. So if you look at it in the Hebrew, you have Va-yoled Adam. Okay, Yalad means to be born. It means to be born. And Va-yoled, for those of you who've taken the advanced Hebrew, it's the Hifil imperfect. Hifil is causative. So God caused mankind to be born. Bid mutenu ke tzalmo. So God caused mankind, okay, caused Adam to give birth. I think that's the way, caused Adam to give birth to, and it was inserted to a son. That was added in the italics. In his likeness, according to his image. All right? And we have Vayikra et Shemo Set. So kara is to call. He called his name Set. We say, yeah, Seth, I think we say in English. In Hebrew, it's Set. So we have here, and God said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness. Vayomer Elohim, na'aseh Adam, betzalmenu, kid mutenu. Now, this is the picture I want you to get. A father with his son. And this is what God has done. God is not a man that you can see, but he's perfect and he's holy, and he's created his children in his image, which is, so we are not God, of course, but we are created in his image. According to the likeness. So this, it's like a father and a son. So, but the son is created in the image of the father, but the father then has to train the son and teach the son how to walk in the ways of righteousness. And that's what Scripture is all about. So in the beginning we're created in the image of God, then God pats us on the back and said, okay, I'm putting you in a world filled with sin. I mean, filled with all kinds of things. You're going to sin, and I'm going to teach you how to overcome that sin so that you can return to that stage of righteousness to be able to come into my presence. So let's see, what do we have next? So I wanted to leave here with this wonderful picture of Yeshua, because it's a photograph, but somebody has taken a photograph of someone looking like Yeshua walking beside you, and this is, you are learning now to return to that likeness that God had created. It's like a father with a son. You're born perfect. The Father then is leading you in the ways of righteousness. He's doing it through his son, Yeshua, and so that you can come into God's presence at some time in the future. And the more we mature in righteousness, the closer we come into God's presence. So if you're interested in learning biblical Hebrew, we offer 3 courses, beginner, intermediate, and advanced. There is a discount for partners and premium members, and you just go to BibleInteract.com and you will find the information on these 3 courses on reading biblical Hebrew. And I really hope you'll do it. I mean, even if you just do the beginner to get the sound of the language, and that it just, it's a wonderful thing to be able to get into the biblical Hebrew. With that, I will wish you shalom.